First order of business is approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Comments?
No, I wasn't here, but I saw in like one of the first lines that I had voted on something. So I think you. No, it wasn't a bad vote. So I think it was just approving the previous.
All right. Do we have a motion? Kevin wasn't here, so he can't. Okay, there's a motion. Were you here, David? Were you here last week? Were you here last month? All right. So maybe Jeremy's interested in seconding? All right, there's a motion and a second to accept the minutes as amended. All in favor? All right. Minutes are approved. Public comment, there is no one here. Conditional use permits, unless something came in late under the wire. There are no conditional use permit applications. New business. No new business here. Old business, easement monitoring.
I don't know if Dale, excuse me, submitted, we did a monitoring of the easement for the Salmon Falls 2 parcel.
Okay, good.
I don't know if she sent that in.
Yep, she submitted that to me.
Okay.
I got a copy of it. I can share with you, Scott, if you need it.
Yes, please. That's the one between between Rocky Hill and
Rocky Hill and Salmon Falls.
Salmon Falls, yeah.
Road, yeah.
At the end of Rocky Hill.
Yes.
Yep.
I want to say we got probably 2/3 done after about 3 hours of walking around in there.
Yeah. It's thick.
Thick, hilly.
Yeah.
But the parcel itself seemed to be in pretty good shape. There was some litter, trash, whatever you want to call it, spare tires, that type of stuff, which we noted, took pictures of, took GPS coordinates for them.
Mm-hmm.
So if we ever do go out and try to clear the debris, we know where it is.
Okay,
And we were able to find the, I want to say 3 or 4 of the pins that were set as the boundaries out there.
And did you get coordinates for those?
I'm sorry?
Did you get coordinates for those?
Yes, we
too?
did.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
The one thing I wanted to mention was like I say, the parcel seemed in pretty good shape. I mean, there was some trash in there, but not a ton. But along the roads, along Salmon Falls roads and whatever this is, Rocky Hill, it's horrendous. Literally, I mean, you could almost assemble.
Wrappers and
Oh no, you could assemble a car from the parts out there on the side of the road.
really?
Oh yeah, people, struts, bumpers, you name it.
Sort of on the right of way for
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I don't know where that would fall, if it falls under the commission's purview, or if that would be the DPW.
Is that a state road?
Salmon
Falls?
Falls? I think it's local, but I could confirm about the status of it.
Yeah, the
I
salmon,
remember that state did
It could be,
brush cutting on it, but
I could confirm. I think it's local, but I can double check. I could be wrong.
the Salmon Falls side of the parcel, there was trash. It wasn't that bad. I mean, it was stuff that people threw out of cars, you know, cups and stuff. On Rocky Hill Road, there was a tremendous amount of debris. I mean,
on the parcel proper.
it was probably in the first 20 feet leading into the parcel. I don't know where the right-of-way is, but,
Like a dump truck's worth, or
oh, yeah.
really?
Oh, probably, yeah.
How recent did it look?
It's hard to tell. I mean, it might not be a dump truck, but it'd be probably close to half of one at least.
All right, well, when I take a look at the pictures, we contact Mike and see if he can help us. We could bring it out to the road. Is it in the trees or?
A little bit, not, I mean, it's not that far off the road, so it's not like you would have to drag it out through the bushes.
All right, great, thank you.
Did you get my email? The state reached out regarding the Lily Pond easement monitoring for this year too.
When did you send
The drinking water from DES. It was November 1. They sent out their correspondence to all people with drinking water, water supply, land protection grant program properties. Or drinking water. We're part of the Drinking Water and Groundwater Trust Fund properties. So we have to do the monitoring for that by, reports are due by the 31st of December.
Yeah,
If someone can go out to do that.
maybe I'm thinking of last year, but didn't we,
We did it last year, yeah. Yearly, we have to report it to them.
didn't do it this year?
I don't think
You
so
didn't do
yet.
I'm sorry?
You didn't do the Lily Pond parcel?
I did that with Sarah and Angela. But a year and a half ago, maybe.
Wait a minute,
Can look it up too.
I'm pretty sure we did it.
Dale did it. I think I received information from Dale last year regarding it.
Didn't Sean do it?
The last one I have is 12/27/2023.
All right, well, we'll get it done.
I can re-forward it to you if you need, if that would be of use too.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm around for the next couple of weeks with some flexibility, so if, you know,
Okay.
if somebody can go out with me. That's not the Lily Pond section that was added, is it? This is something different that Sarah and I went out and marked?
It's the newest one along the brook.
Along the, okay, so not the one that had the illegal trail through it,
Yes.
that one?
Yep.
Oh, okay. That wouldn't be tough to knock out. What is the name we use for that one? Do you know?
Lily Pond.
That's it? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for that. On to member items, subcommittee items and reports. Wildlife Management Plan for Lily Pond parcel, that's me, I don't have it. Invasives Plan Subcommittee report, Dale Smith Kenyon. Dale is not here, but she did attend, I think, session on invasives at the NHACC conference this past, whenever it was, this month. Exploration of formal conservation of Malley Farm city parcel, Kevin and myself.
Yeah, no, I mean, not a lot going on right now. I think we're gonna be in a holding pattern for months. There was a email last week, I think, from Fish and Wildlife with a series of questions that they needed answers to for some of the work that they're doing. It was about what was the usage of the property. There was concern. I don't know if the word concern's the right word, but they brought up the point that they believe there was a conservation easement already in place, and that was based on that granite data set that just kind of puts all of what I assume are just, different types of quote unquote conservation lands on that map. So I went through the metadata and found the codes, sent that to them to clear that up. There was a question about if there was a park there. So, it was just somebody going through the online data, I think, and a little bit confused about stuff. And then sent them the deeds. I attached the deeds that you had found, Scott, just to, and it was good. Lori called to make sure there was anything that she could do. So Celt's really engaged still, and then Michelle answered one of the questions too. So I never heard back. So I think, we solved all of that. And so in that message, there was a mention of a deed search that would be, a couple months away. I think if we hear something, next summer in terms of moving on the easement itself, that would be, a win. So we'll just see. I did go out there Saturday or Sunday to walk around. I know we've got to, write up so I can probably do that. I'll look at the forms and all based on, I covered a fair bit of the property on Saturday. So I'll look at doing that if that's cool with you, and then we can knock that one out. But then I think that's it in terms of, an update, an update on progress. So we just have to be patient.
Okay. I got some correspondence yesterday and today from Brad and Dot Connolly. I believe it's Dot Connolly. I didn't get her last name. But they wanted to point out that the equestrian land is up for sale and ask whether Celt might be interested in it. I know that they contacted us maybe a couple of years ago regarding the same land. I don't know if it was withdrawn from the market or how that ended up, but
where is that? What's that? I'm not familiar with that.
It's on, excuse me, Goodwin.
It's off Green Street.
Green Street, yeah. And it kind of almost abuts Malley Farm, but not the part that we're looking to conserve.
Okay.
Sure.
So it's close, and I think that U.S. Fish and Wildlife may have had some interest in that land for the Great Northern Thicket, but we had decided at the time that it hadn't been one of our top priorities, so we declined. It was, $1 million something, 2 points, yeah.
Yeah.
So unless U.S. Fish and Wildlife is interested in picking up the tab for that, I'm not sure that we're gonna do that.
So they asked you if the city was interested. I mean, I can if you send me the information, I can forward it to Julia with Fish and Wildlife.
Okay, sure.
And Celt too.
It is I think it's the largest open space, unconserved
Huh,
city, so.
8 acres.
wow.
108 acres.
All right, yeah, so I'll forward that to you.
That price might be a little steep.
All right. City tree GPS inventory project, Briar.
Really don't have anything to report right now. Because of the leaves falling off these trees are become harder to identify, but what I'm planning to do is to continue out through the next month or so, at least locating the trees, getting the GPS coordinates for them, and as much data as I can, so that in the spring, when they start to flower out again, I'll just go back and get the species, and should be able to hopefully complete that or wrap it up. I've also got to get back in touch with SRPC to figure out if we're going to go that route with the building the data set and all.
Have you talked with Kevin about mapping
Kevin,
like ArcGIS or?
Has Doug talked, have
Yeah.
we spoken, I mean, we've spoken about it a few times in here.
in general, I mean, not specifics or.
I'm just wondering how much effort it would be for us to do it.
I mean, you know, my view's always been it's not a useful tool without being spatially explicit, you know, and
Yeah.
so, but I think, and Doug, correct me if I'm wrong, because I've not been around, but like the conversations that you've had with the group that did Dover's, giving them your data set, they would put that into ArcGIS.
Well, the last message I got from, I can't remember his name now, from SRPC,
Jackson.
I said, you know, we basically want to use the same data set as Dover, you know, if you have it. He said they deleted the data set. Once it's done, they delete it. So they would have to recreate it for us.
Well, I mean, you've created the data set.
Well, no, all I've done is create a spreadsheet, or I've been working on a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I'm not creating anything in a GIS format or whatever.
Well, yeah, but your Excel spreadsheet or whatever is a data set, and that, I mean, that would be imported. If depending on how you organize things, that would be imported in
Correct.
as a spatial data set. So, and then the result would be that, like, that Dover, you know, website, or I mean, a website similar to what Dover had, where you would pick a tree, as long as you have GPS coordinates for the trees, you know, you'd click on that tree, a box would pop up with all of your other data that you collected.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, from our previous discussions, that's where I think you were heading, was that you would work with Jackson.
Yeah.
There would maybe be a cost involved in that, of the data being put into an ArcGIS online mapping system. So, you know, that, I mean, that is the key, because then that data's accessible to anybody who wants to use it, and available, and then can be updated too. So
Are you a novice with that sort of input?
I'm a little bit above a novice. I mean, my issue right now with all of the ArcGIS products is I haven't learned the new system yet, and we lost access to the old system. So I certainly understand the nuances of, you know, a database, and, you know, what we would want out of that. So I'm happy to, you know, be in any discussions for that. It's not something that, like, we could, I mean, it depends. This goes back to those early discussions about if the city has certain licenses, and then If they do, then we can we can do a lot of this stuff ourselves. But if they don't, then it really has to be contracted out to somebody who has the Esri licenses that can then do the products and then host them.
Yeah, I was told we have the licenses. The city has the licenses.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's a little bit, so yes, I mean, I could help with that. I mean, so there's a chance that maybe we don't need to go anywhere outside, that we create a form ourselves, and since Doug has the data, it could be manually input into the database. It would be more time consuming, but that would be a possibility.
It's not something that I want to put on us, but I just have the memory of the last conversation that we had about talking with Jackson was that he kind of balked at continuing with the project and
Well,
threw out a high
He
price
quoted us
tag.
$100,000 to build the,
Yeah.
but I think at that time, we were looking at a much larger portion of the city.
$100,000 to
Yeah.
take
Well,
what you collect and
The
put in?
original quote that they gave us was like between 10 and 12,000 maybe.
Yeah.
And then this last time, it was up to 100,000. So I kind of got the impression that maybe they really don't want to do it, you know. And I can understand that because one of the sessions we had, they were talking about all this work that Jackson was going to be doing on different projects. And I was thinking maybe he's got more on his plate than he can handle right now. So that's why he gave us that number. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just guessing.
Yeah, that seems excessively high, given that you're collecting data, you're doing all of the groundwork, which would be the most expensive cost, right? Is people but going out and collecting those data.
We may not need to worry about the Esri licenses, right? If we could just use Granite.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's a good point. Like I'm familiar with using Granite, not in providing a data set to them. So you're thinking like submit it to Granite as a Somersworth tree inventory data set, and then it would be available.
We could do that. I was thinking the other way around. We could import the Granite GPX or whatever it is and use that for our base map or whatever.
Oh yeah, I mean if see, I mean, I think Granite is essentially run on an ArcGIS platform, and I'd have to look at it more closely. So either way,
It was Microsoft.
is it? So it's not a Arc. Is there a AGOL emblem anywhere or anything like that?
Microsoft Corporation and TomTom.
Oh, okay, so that's something different then. Yeah, so I don't know then. I mean, if we could, I mean, I think maybe the easiest route would be to see if they would host a layer that we create, and then we'd have to figure out how to create it and import it to them.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have to look at this and give it a little bit more thought. Before, I was just thinking of they're just ArcGIS online maps, and you can pull up imagery or topos or whatever as your background, and then you add layers. And so we would add Doug's data set completely to that and pick how we want it to be shown.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy, we can talk later, and we can if you need this summarized, or I can email you a summary. Yeah, so then you would import Doug's data set in, select the GPS coordinates to map, and then everything on that point when you clicked on it would come up as an option or as as information.
Okay. I went to a session at a conference put on by Jim Wilkinson, who's the vice chair of the Hampstead Conservation Commission. It was on GIS-enabled trail mapping using Avenza and QGIS. He seemed pretty adept at what he was doing. Granted, he's retired, but, and this is his passion, but maybe he could assist us with certain questions.
Yeah.
I downloaded Avenza and QGIS and started taking a look at them, but I don't have the time to.
Yeah, I mean, I used
Dive into it.
Avenza to map Malley Farm, and then Gaia as well. So we have a lot of that information, and we could do that pretty easily. If you wanted to, are you thinking like map all the trails and everything in?
No, I was just thinking, of using that along the lines of the tree inventory, as opposed to.
I mean, Avenza is mostly a pure mapping tool, not a GIS type
Yeah.
database, so it's really good for doing trails or, lines, points,
Yeah.
and photos, stuff like that, like really simple things.
Yeah, he was using QGIS.
I'm not familiar with that. It must be a free,
It's
maybe a
open source,
freeware
yeah.
of, yeah.
So that's potential contact that we could ask for help.
I mean, does the city have a GIS? Like, I know that I sent an email at one point to somebody that was listed as a GIS contact on the city. I never heard anything back. So I don't know if that person left. This was when I first started, So, I mean, that would be key, right? Is if the city has a GIS person, then they would be able to navigate a lot of this stuff for us.
I think that the person that's technically identified as the GIS person is the city engineer. We do utilize regional planning for a lot of different maps that we have generated for the city layers. They do our tax map updates. And then obviously our GIS is hosted through CAI Technologies.
Yeah, and maybe it's a thing that if the city has the structure, the right access to the software products, and we might be able to contract building the form and the database a lot cheaper than $100,000. So hire somebody to, because really, when you use these things in the field, you have a form that pulls up, you enter the data right in there, it gets blasted, into the cloud, and then it's right available to, in the mapping area. So we would just need somebody to make like that transition happen, assuming we have those licenses to host the data. But I feel like, Doug, didn't you sit with somebody in the city that was the GIS person, or was that?
Well, I think it was in the, I think it was the planning department. I can't remember the.
You sat with Amber, who's the city engineer, and I don't remember if Mike was part of your guys' conversation.
There was Amber, but I think there was somebody else. I don't know if it was, does Amber have a secretary or somebody that works with her? Or?
Like office space? She doesn't have a secretary.
Oh, okay.
So Public Works has a secretary, executive administrative person.
But I do remember, I don't know if it was Amber or not, that was saying that technically she is considered the GIS person, but she really doesn't, whoever I was talking to,
It was Amber.
they were given that title, but they really don't even know how to do it, so they would have to either find somebody to be able to do it or learn.
So as a non-city employee, would I be able to get access to, the license? Would I be able to log on some way to use the license if we had it?
I would have to make inquiries.
Yeah, I mean, that may be a way to do this, even if I had to do it here, that might be possible, so. Yeah, if you could just see if like a commission member can use software.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm probably going to ask a stupid question, but I'm used to it. When we're talking about building this GIS type system, is that basically just another layer on the city's, I can't think of the name of the system that you go into and you can get property records or,
It's the
Right.
GIS.
I'm sorry?
The GIS mapping.
Now, is that what we're talking about, just building a new layer?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
but it wouldn't, I don't know that we could have that layer available on that site, but it would look exactly like that.
Yeah, I was just thinking, if you've got a site that has all the streets laid out and everything to begin with,
Yeah, I mean, those data sets that represent the streets, topography, housing, all that are freely available. And so, when you start a GIS project, you just pull those in,
okay.
And so that's often easier than getting permission to post a data set onto something like that site. That at least that would be my guess, and that's been my experience with other situations. So you're using the exact same data sets, you're just creating a layered file essentially with, streets, all that, and then your tree inventory would be the top layer on that would be shown, so.
All right, so you're gonna look into granite potential, and
Yep.
I'm gonna reach out to Jim Wilkinson and see if he has any contacts or ideas.
What was the name of the software? Sorry, not the Avenza, the other one. the
QGIS.
QGIS. All right.
Yeah, there's an Android app. I don't know, but I'm sure they have iPhone. I'm looking at their ArcGIS page, and they have fire alarm response grid maps overlaid and street lights, stuff that we don't have on ours. So maybe they've tied conservation stuff in there.
For QGIS or the other, or for
For the
Granite?
town of Hampstead.
Oh, okay.
For ArcGIS.
Yeah, because QGIS, I mean, you would still need somewhere to host everything, right? I mean, there'd have to be some place to deposit your
Right, yeah.
generated data.
You need a live server somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'll look into Granite, and if there's even the potential to share data there. I'm thinking there might not be, just because it's not a huge, like, there's great data sets there, but they're pretty controlled, vetted.
Yeah, but DES has their own layers, and Wildlife Action Plan, and
Mhm. Well, and our conservation lands are there, right? I mean, they were submitted and put on there, so yeah, maybe you're right. That's not that big of a deal to have it is a conservation layer. It's just of trees.
yeah,
So,
I think they might be able to segment it like that.
okay, yeah, I'll find out.
Great, thank you. Any other old business before the commission? I was talking with Jeremy, asking for input on how things are going with the commission, and wanting to make sure that people aren't getting burned out, and that we're holding everyone's interest, and whether you had any feedback. And well, the main thing that I think that I took away from the conversation was that we're a small group of people, and we have a lot on our plate, and that maybe we bite off more than we can chew. That we can't do everything well. We can do a small number of things well. So I wanted to talk about that, and was thinking about what is currently on our plates. We've got three subcommittees right now, right? Doug, the tree inventory, the Malley Farm project, and the invasives inventory. And then we've got our ongoing commitments for easement monitoring and, obviously hearing applications and then whatever comes up here and there. Somebody's got a question, like the mayor was interested in creating a trail, formalizing trail at Malley Farm, which is actually what spun off that subcommittee. I try to be careful about what we take on, and of course it's up to all of us, but to make sure that we don't get spread too thinly. And to be honest, whatever we take on, I have to have a little piece of of each one of those things myself. And there's only one of me, so that part of that is self-preservation for me to be careful about that. But there are a couple things we could do that I can think of, and one thing that I talked with Kevin about was when I was at the conference, I was looking at all the sponsors, and there were land use law firms and engineers and whatnot. And they not all of them, but a lot of them provide services that conservation commissions and municipalities can benefit from. And to that end, I was thinking, is there anything that we could take advantage of contracting out, potentially using funds, the conservation fund. Right now, I'll skip to the treasurer's report ahead of time just so we can put it in perspective. The ending balance is $293,598.70, which is not enough money to buy the equestrian land, but it's enough for purchase a decent sized parcel, maybe leave some left over for the sort of contract work that may come along. Tricky part is that we can't contract out political stuff. We can't contract out getting people on board with projects. We can't contract out. I don't know whether we can. I don't think that we can contract out for easement monitoring. We could do it for management plans, but
I almost feel like it's hard to, it's hard to plan for that, like the way that things come up, and we're a pretty flexible group, really. So just the knowledge that maybe we have a part of that fund available, and we tapped into it twice or once for Malley Farm already. If there's grants that we know of ahead of time that we'd like to go to, and we work with some group, on that, something along those lines. But a lot of this stuff, it just seems like this is what we have to do, and we are a small group. I don't know if there's been an attempt in the past to sort of network and have a group of volunteers on the outside that are interested in, conservation type things, that maybe don't want to be on the commission but would like to tromp through the woods, every Saturday or something like that. But, one thing maybe that would be helpful, and this is, I'm just off the top of my head, is, we're never really prioritizing anything. And this is just sort of how my brain operates, and hearing the beginning of the meeting about, that, hey, we have an easement due that, it's got to be in. So if we could maybe monthly or bi-monthly set up, okay, these are the 5 things that we have got to get done, and whether or not you're the lead or Jeremy's the lead or Doug's the lead, that becomes the priority of the group, not so much of the individual project, Because like there's been times where I've been like overwhelmed with Malley Farm, but now for the last 3 months I haven't done anything.
Yeah.
And it's just sort of tracking things. And I've been thinking about adding, that pollinator document we've talked about in the past, but I'm like, do I want to add something to the larger group too? Because that would also involve other people in here too. So maybe like an overall, hey, this is priority 1 for the year, priority 2, and then we have these other projects that we can add if we get, if we have the time.
Okay. Thank you for that. One thing that I want to make sure that I do accommodate is that everyone has their own interests, and like Doug, you seem to really perk up regarding the tree inventory, and so it seemed like a natural project for you to run with. And if you're not doing something that you're passionate about, you may leave.
Yeah.
So, I want to be conscious of that too. Along the lines of finding passionate people to help out. Anybody who's chairing a subcommittee can recruit anybody from the city to help out. They don't have to be a member of the commission. You just have to think about getting volunteer forms filled out for visits, certain places for certain tasks.
Are there like limits to how we could advertise for that? Like, so could we like post on the Somersworth Facebook page and say, hey, Conservation Commission is going to do a cleanup of wherever. Anybody interested, reach out, or are we not allowed to do that? Because I don't know where I've not understood where we operate as representatives of the city to some degree, but not employees. So
There's no official city Facebook page?
Yeah, I just mean as an example. I mean, there are other pages and things that are active, but that social media avenue, is that an option?
Well, even if you used, I don't know if you can, the library notices that go out, something on.
Yeah, city newsletter. Social media is tricky. Probably run right by the city manager. And I don't know if we can get an overall yay or nay for type of stuff that we can put on social media.
It may just be too much of a hassle because the Conservation Commission does not have any presence.
Right.
And so I assumed there was a reason for that, and that was because we couldn't have one.
Right. We can do things like put things in the water bill. People have done that before.
Yeah, I mean that all makes it difficult to build a.
Well, then there's word of mouth, and talking with people who work at the school, or do they know of students who might be interested, or I realize that it's tricky. And there's concern about the right to know RSA and how things are managed with that, but I would think if we're just asking for participation, that's really not, you're not planning anything on online media.
Well, I mean, these are the things, right, that make volunteerism tough. That I can go onto Facebook or wherever and put out a pretty quick announcement, and I'm done. I did that in 5 minutes. Alternatively, if I can't do that, I'm probably not going to go and track down people at schools and the water bill. You know what I mean? And so it's
there's Nature Groupie. And,
I think that's a great resource, but I also was like, well, I don't know if we can post to that.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Okay, all right. I mean,
I think
I
the
work
drawback
for
to that is the audience. I never read it.
Well, I know, I've wondered that, like, how much do you check in on that? I forget about its existence completely for times, you know. Yeah, I mean, it does, it sort of, those things compound what we already have to do and make it harder. I mean,
Yeah, I
it's,
understand. But it's sort of like a little bit of capital outlay for, you know, upfront
mhm.
to get some of our time back on the back end.
Yeah, I mean, like the library is an interesting situation because, you know, I went to the pollinator talk there, and I mean, it wasn't a big crowd, but there was probably 14 people there, and some of them seemed very engaged. And I don't know, maybe it's that we do like a mini, not webinar. I mean, it could be a webinar, but you know, we do some talks there about projects or whatever, and see what kind of audience we get and build off of that. I don't know. I mean, I work for the government. I understand, you know, the what, you know, that it's often difficult to do things, but it makes it very difficult as a volunteer for some things is all.
Yeah.
Could we get clarity from the city manager on what we are allowed to do? If we can get a stated policy on this, it tells us what we can do as opposed to trying to guess at what we're allowed to and not allowed to.
That's a great idea. Yep, if we could have that figured out.
I'll ask. All right. So this is that, and for, you know, if you're stuck, you know, lean on the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions. And we pay membership fees, and they have a lot of contacts and resources for us. The UNH Cooperative Extension. If you don't know the answer, ask one of us, and somebody will know somebody who does know the answer. It's fine to communicate between meetings as long as we're not having a quorum and discussing planning and that kind of thing. But if you're looking for advice and next steps, reach out to me. Give me a call if I don't answer my email, because I'm bad about that. But yeah, I think you all have my phone number. If you don't, it's on the city site. So, there is a right to know video on the NHACC site. It's a YouTube video. That might help us with that. And they have a lot of other useful videos, but that's pertinent to this conversation. Any other ideas or feedback on prioritization, value of what we're doing? I think we are on the hook for a lot of stuff, you know, like getting the Lily Pond easement walk done, and we have to do a lot of periodic stuff like that, but there's other stuff that's voluntary. Doug?
I was just going to say, I kind of agree with what Kevin was saying before about doing a prioritization of you know, it's hard for everybody to just scatter and do their own thing. If we can nail one thing down, or do, you know, one thing and then go on to a next. Not saying you can't do work on, like if you identify number one priority, if there's nothing to do there, nothing says you can't work on something else, but that would be the number one.
Okay. So remind me, and at the end of every meeting, I'll rehash the actions, make sure that we have people to take them. And
Yeah, and I mean, if you get to a meeting, like say you have Kevin's project is the number one, but either Kevin's not gonna be here or there's really nothing to do. You shift that, you reorganize the priority. Something else shifts to the number one spot.
Mhm.
It would just be a rolling.
I mean, you take on a lot, right? Like, it's not lost on anybody how much goes to you. So, I mean, hopefully this would take some of that off of you, that you could also ditch some things
Well-
across, you know what I mean? Not
Yeah.
ditch, but like, okay, look, I'm not gonna get A or B done. I'm overwhelmed. Like, can somebody else pick that up? And that may free you up some too.
Well, this is why you lead a subcommittee. But yeah, I hear you. All right, so if we're all set with that?
Sure.
Then we can move on to the treasurer's report. Art, you have something to say?
Just one other thing under old business. Next week at the planning board meeting, they're going to have a public hearing on the adoption of the natural resource and the land use chapter that has been worked on this year. So that is before the planning board for public hearing and hopefully adoption. Thank you all for your guys' input in this chapter process. We did really appreciate having the Conservation Commission involved in that.
Thank you. So is there a definitive draft now? Or?
Yep. We can share that with you.
Okay.
We received your comment and forwarded it to regional planning.
Okay, thanks. Is it more than a draft? Is it done?
It was presented to the planning board at the last meeting. The regional planning came, and then so it's I guess it's technically draft until it's formally accepted, but it is the draft that's ready to be presented at the public hearing and for hopefully adoption.
Okay, so it's done as far as the SRPC project is concerned.
Yes, that grant closed out.
All right, thanks. Okay, treasurer's report. So I gave you the ending balance, but the balance forward was, as of October 31st, $268,027.12. We received $1,146.58 in interest. The current use tax received from Mass General Brigham was $25,000. We dispersed $575 to the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions. And again, the ending balance was $293,598.70. Having said that, does anyone have a motion to adjourn?
I would second that.
All right, there's a motion and a second for adjournment. All in favor?
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned at 6:57.